Meeting's going great. Just the collaboration between everybody, even the coaches, athletic directors, and really coming together to say what is best for the conference. Sometimes you got to take your institutional hat off a little bit and understand we're in this together, we're partners, and how do we grow the conference and make decisions to grow the conference. After doing that, then you say, how does this affect me as an institution?
Right.
And making sure that I'm doing the right things, not only internally, but making sure that I'm also voicing my opinion to make sure that the institution's getting put up front within the conference. So it's been great communication. I can't tell you what a great room it is of ADs that really get along. Jim's a tremendous leader. Can't explain that enough. Just his leadership really shines through in these discussions. And then having the coaches in there really to hear their viewpoints on some things. So it's just, all the conversations right now are going great, and we're really being proactive in our approach.
Yeah, I've heard from several of the coaches that raved about Jim Phillips's leadership and vision.
Well, he's got a great vision, and he's a get things done type person. I've known him over 20 years and really admired how he handles situations, takes the analytics of it, takes feedback from everyone within the conference, and makes a decision and moves forward and for the betterment of the conference. And we're always going to support him and his vision and leadership, while also looking at him and having communication. How do we contribute to that vision? I think we play a very major part in his vision moving forward, and we got to do our part to be good partners with him.
Yeah, the conference, NCAA is trying to push, I guess, everything down to the conference level for enforcement, for setting standards.
Right.
And he's on the
Transformation Committee. Yes.
So he's able to, I guess, share with you what's happening at other conferences as well.
Yeah, to some extent. He's able to share and make sure that we're on alignment, especially on the Power 5 side of things, that we know what other conferences are thinking, and making sure that we're on alignment of doing what's best for our conference, and then looking globally, where are we going as a Power 5s. So having him on that committee and his leadership is invaluable.
To the ACC, but also to college football.
Correct, 100%. Having not only our conference, but his voice in college football. And like I said, and he takes great feedback from us. Where do you want to go in college football? Of course, at the end of the day, we're Florida State, and I'm going to let him know where I think college football should go, and we have great communication, just like all the ADs and he do. And we're really excited about his vision and where we stand in that vision.
So building the conference and promoting the conference is one of the topics of discussion.
100%. How do we grow the conference brand, especially in the sport of football? That has taken up a lot of our conversation.
What are some of the thoughts and ideas that you've heard?
Well, we've gone through that scheduling model to make sure, and I understand that, and I voice my opinion. I have to play Clemson, I have to play Miami. Not only is that the best interest of our fans, but it's for the betterment of college football as a whole. And I understand that. That's 2 hard games. I got Florida every year on the schedule. I play a crossover with a marquee SEC opponent. So understand that, okay, now what does the rest of it look like? Who are we going to play, and where is our brand? You look traditionally, and even most recently, when we're on television, the viewership is there, and we drive the conference when it comes to TV. So how do we get this brand up into Boston area more, up into New York more, to help not only grow Florida State University, but in my opinion, that's going to help grow the conference as a whole.
Let me back this up just a little bit for the sake of the listener. There's some discussion of going to instead of 2 divisions, 1 division.
Yes.
And by doing that, there's discussion of 2 fixed games and 6
rotational.
Rotational. And then another model, which would be 3 fixed games.
And 5 rotational.
And 5 rotational. And what it would do is it would allow you to play everybody in the conference home and away every 4 years.
Correct. Yes, and that's the models. That's the biggest discussion today. We got to sit down with football coaches, get their input on what they view as the pros and cons. We look at it from an athletic director and leadership. What's the pros and cons? We haven't made a decision, to my knowledge, yet on that, but it's still going back. And the conference has done. Michael Strickland's done an unbelievable job on just laying out models for us. I mean, that guy has laid out a lot of models because we keep asking him about this and that, and he'll go run the analytics on it and give us another model. But it's make sure we have a schedule that creates equity. And because, like I mentioned, I know I'm going to play Miami and Clemson. That's for the betterment of college football. So what does the rest of Florida State's schedule look like? And I think it's important for institutionally and for the conference that we get to these major markets more often and grow the conference brand, because just looking at the analytics, when Florida State's on television, there's viewership, and that's good for the conference.
So the analytics are basically eyeballs.
Eyeballs, always is. When you talk, Jerry, when you talk corporate sponsors, I had a great conversation with one of our coaches in another sport the other day asking me how do they grow their sport. 100% eyeballs. How you grow your sport and how you get sponsorships and everything going along with it is eyeballs. We had a great conversation with ESPN today. The growing sport is women's volleyball and softball and gymnastics. Well, we don't have gymnastics. So softball and women's volleyball is just growing tremendously on ESPN, and that's where they're putting their focus right now, television-wise. So how do we support ESPN and provide them great teams and great content for that? So eyeballs drive the sport, 100%.
In talking to Notre Dame basketball coach Mike Bray, he had mentioned that in their breakout for basketball, it's how do we get more teams back to the NCAA tournament?
That's right. Always.
And,
I love those models where you keep winning games.
Yeah.
Always for the ACC when it comes tournament time.
He did a nice presentation to us, me and a couple of writers that were talking
Good.
to him.
Get those units. We need units.
Yeah. And so I guess ESPN suggested more access helps.
Yeah, that's not a bad concept. We're always going to be transparent and give ESPN all the access they want. Because I think that helps us, a good partnership, and helps us grow our brand.
Yeah. Some of the hot topics that we expected coming into this are NIL, the concept of the transfer portal, and tampering. Are three. Did we go over that?
Till I'm blue in the face. You talk about it, and it's played out exactly like we knew it would play out. You knew but I was just talking to ESPN out there in an interview with them, and you look at tampering. Tampering's gone on since the 1800s and the invention of football, the invention of collegiate sports. Tampering's gone on. I was at another institution not too long ago, and I had a student go into the portal and 1 hour later enrolled in a school. Well, you tell me that decision made and all the paperwork got done in 1 hour. So there was tampering. It's been going on. But what you try to do is have a great relationship with your student athletes. Coach Norvell and the rest of our coaches have great relationships with their student athletes. We create a culture where we believe that they will let us know if there's instances like that going on. But
those things happen naturally.
They happen naturally.
Backdoor.
Correct. Even player to player. You went to high school with a player, you're going to reach out and say, we sure know who provoked that? Is it a coach? It's so hard to prove. But you talk to other ADs, and when you think something happened, you make sure, hey, we think this happened. Just let's be collegiate about it and do the right thing.
Is that something the conference can kind of?
They can monitor to an extent. You always work with your conference and infractions committees just to say, we think this is happening, and work with them and let them know when you think. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's gone on since the early 1800s. It's just the invention of sports. It is going on.
So just adapt and get used to it.
Adapt and get used to it. NIL is the biggest. We've talked about that every day since I've been here, and And with the announcement yesterday, is great. There was a rule. They weren't enforcing it. Now they say they're going to enforce it. Well, let's sit back and watch to see if the NCAA is serious about actually enforcing the rule of NIL that was set forth. So that's the biggest topic, and we'll just kind of in a wait and see. But at the end of the day, Florida State's always going to do the right thing. We're going to abide by the rules. And Mike and I talk about that all the time. We're going to do the right thing at the right time.
Interestingly, on that, again, I go back to Mike Bray. He was talking about, up there in Indiana, they don't have the rule we have in Florida.
Correct. Well, at the beginning of it, Florida and California, I chaired the NIL committee for 2 years, and for lead one to all the ADs in the country. And at the end of the day, Florida and California had the two best laws. When I studied every single one that had a law, they had the two best. Now, when the NCAA said, well, if you don't have a state law, it's wide open. Well, now we were restricted for doing the right thing and being proactive for the betterment of our student athletes. We got kind of punished for it, where we couldn't compete on an equal playing field because we did have a law. You think you're doing the right thing, and now it's examining it and hoping the NCAA steps in and continues to fix that problem.
And if not, then you need to keep lobbying the state to change the law.
Spent a lot of time up on the Hill.
Yes, I know you did. So in Bray's talk, he was talking about how, you have a recruiting plan presentation for a family that talks about how great Notre Dame is, and the academic.
Right.
And they incorporated an NIL part.
Yeah.
But you guys can't do that.
Well, we can talk about the education program, APEX program that we have put in place, where we're educating our student athletes on entrepreneurship, educating them on how to grow their brand, working with our partners across campus to create some classes. That we can do. So, we got to make sure that we're doing the internal controls that we are allowed to do to our maximum effort. And I think we've done a marvelous job of educating our student athletes on the value of their brand and how do they grow it. And that way, when they do have those opportunities, or they can create a better brand for themselves, they will have more opportunities moving forward.
So the NIL piece comes in. Rising Spear or whoever it is.
Whoever. I think there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them out there with us. We're not allowed to have any contact with them, so it's. Yeah. I know they're out there.
And they contact the player or the prospect.
Yes.
Independently.
Yes.
Okay.
Or their agents, or players that have agents now, marketing agents.
Yeah. Transfer portal. What was discussed there, other than tampering?
Yeah, well, it needs some guardrails. What that's going to look like, we're still in discussion on it, but it totally needs some time commitments. This is when you can go in, but by this date, you need to make a decision. So that's it. Just putting some limits that makes sense, but also making sure that not only does it make sense for the institution and the program, but it also makes sense for the student athlete, and it gives them a time for them to make a decision on what they want to do and have the availability to go and see what the market creates for them. So trying to make sure it's a balancing. You're on a balance.
Let me bring you back to campus real quick. You just hired a soccer coach.
Yeah, and great job. He is. We're so excited to have Coach Penske, and you're talking about the former ACC Coach of the Year and the National Coach of the Year and SEC Coach of the Year. What he's been able to do in his career is this going to continue our soccer program at an elite level, and we're going to fund it at an elite level to make sure that they have the resources to compete and win championships.
It's a well-received hire.
I hope so. And the best thing about it, and I mentioned Abby in the press conference, his wife, they're just great community people. You're going to see him get engaged in the community. You're going to see the players get engaged in the community, and he really fits our culture. Not only that, some of the coaches that we have, but that we're also creating. Cool. And you see that when you see the other head coaches come out to the press conference, and that means a lot for them to come out welcome him, whether it's Brooke or Coach Penske, to welcome him to Tallahassee and really introduce themselves and welcome him to the Noah family.
Football ops building in the stadium project.
Yeah.
Your favorite?
Two little ones.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other projects on, but that one gets the most attention.
Yeah. Talk about that. Where are you at with that?
Hoping to break ground in December. We got a commitment today. Told Andrew we got a commitment by text today for the football operations facility. So fundraising is going really well for that. Fundraising is going extremely well for the stadium project. We're at $45 million raised for the stadium project alone, and that's been since October. 44.8, I believe, is the exact number, but people are excited about it. It's about offering different experiences. As I've mentioned a lot before, is that 60% of our fan base travels over 3.5 hours to get here to Tallahassee for a game day. We have to show them a commitment because it's important for that revenue to keep coming into Leon County. And it's a time commitment. It's also a monetary commitment that our fans are making. So we need to provide them the best experience we can when they get to Doak Campbell Stadium. So making those adjustments, and we need to drive more revenue out of that stadium to keep up with our peers. And when you look at some changes across the country, what other people have done through the years, we're right now, I believe we're 11th of investments in the last 20 years into Doak Campbell in the conference. 10 other schools have invested more in us. And so we need to keep investing in Doak Campbell and keep investing in that experience for our fan base.
So you, as I understand it, all 8 skyboxes of the owner suites are?
Founder suites have been, and all the founders' loge boxes have been all sold out.
So now you're starting to go to the club seats.
Yeah, and that's going to take time. We're putting bid out right now for a sports architect to come in, because as you know, in all your experience, you need to know exactly what you have. Then we're going to sit down with every single person so they can make an educated decision face to face. And it's going to take time, but our commitment is to sit down and explain what we're doing. We're not going to get a flyer in the mail. You're going to get it by your donor level, and you're going to be able to come in, see what it is, see why we're doing it, get a comparison to what other institutions are doing, so you can see, and then the way you can make an educated decision.
The club seats on that, do you have an estimate of how many there'll be?
We have an estimate right now, but until you get that sports architect in there to tell, and then as you know, they'll tell you there's 20, and you'll show up after they install them and there's 22, or there's 18, and then you got problems. Yeah. But having gone through so many stadium renovations in my career and new stadium builds, you really just got to do your due diligence with that sports architect, and that's what the bid is going out right now, because we can do the founders and the founders loges. We know what that is. Now we're going to get to the nitty gritty of what exactly are in the club seats, and what exactly is going to go into the south end zone, and how many seats we're going to have with all those different experiences we're doing over there. So now that process will start this fall. Of sitting down with people one-on-one, hopefully in August.
We've covered a bunch of ground. Is there anything else happening that you should know about?
I can't wait to get started on the basketball recruiting path. I think that thing's breaks ground, and Brooke and Coach Helm is real excited about that, and just updating that, because both those programs deserve it so much. We're putting in some premium seating in softball. That'll be in place for next year. We got the 2 video boards going in soccer and softball, so we're looking at some decking, a different experience even in softball. Talking to Coach Penske, really waiting on him to get here and get an analysis of what does he need to continue that program at an elite level. Looking at what we can do there. We're looking at baseball. What can we do at baseball to really not only grow revenues out of Dick Hauser, but also we don't tell our story enough. You got the most tradition-rich collegiate baseball program in the country, and walking through those gates, you really don't know that. So what are we doing to tell that story? So there's a few things going on, but I can't tell you, it keeps me up at night, but people have been so receptive to the different ideas and challenging them to live up to Florida State standard. And we got a different standard, and we expect a lot. But at the end of the day, we're Florida State, and we're going to live up to that standard, and we're also going to live up to the standard in the conference.
Michael, I appreciate you taking time.
Always good to sit down with you and go Noles.